My dear brothers and sisters, how thankful I am that through the use of technology, we have been able to meet together and worship on this Sunday morning. We live in the day that our forefathers have awaited with anxious expectation. We have front row seats to witness live what the prophet Nephi saw.
Or in the wild, zombie-filled murderous visions of Chad and Lorie Daybell, Mormons getting ready for the second coming. And Idaho, with all their doomsday tent villages, where you can only fly in to access them, is ground zero for Christ to return to this continent. And if you don't know about Christ's zombies, well, sit back, have your popcorn, and listen to a tale of great woe about Christ returning on a cloud filled with zombies. From the planet of Kolob to the polygamy of Christ, we investigate everything deep within Mormonism. So put on your seatbelts. This episode's going to deal with the murders of Charles Vallow by his wife, Lorie, and her new husband, Chad Daybell, who is a known Mormon prophet of a doomsday cult out of Idaho that has made headlines just recently. And you're going to discover the more you think you know about Mormonism is really only the tip of the iceberg. Underneath the water lies a whole iceberg of unknown occult beliefs and rituals that you barely know exist. First off, I'm going to try to describe all the myriad of murders that surround this case of Lorie and Chad Daybell. It is difficult because when I first heard it, it took a diagram and several times hearing it. But let's just say Lorie was married to a wonderful husband called Charles Vallow. They were, from all appearances, faithful Mormons in Chandler, Arizona. They attended church regularly, and they had a family. They had JJ, who was autistic, and they had Tylee, who was from a different marriage. Notwithstanding, Lorie Vallow falls madly in love with Chad Daybell, who is a Rexburg, Idaho Mormon who writes doomsday books and is somewhat of a visionary. He's had near-death experiences and can pierce the veil and talk to spirits on the other side. He teaches Lorie how to do this. As a consequence, he and Lorie start to receive messages that Charles Vallow, Lorie's present husband, is a zombie who wants to kill her. Well, so Charles Vallow, husband of Lorie, suddenly ends up being shot by Lorie's brother. I know this is complicated, but hold on. Lorie's brother, Alex, who's also a Mormon. It's considered self-defense by the Chandler Police Department, which I, as an attorney, have reviewed the facts and don't know how this possibly could have been considered self-defense since Alex was the aggressor in the final instance where he pulls a gun on Charles and kills him. He states that he was provoked because Charles had a bat, but of course he retreated to go get his gun. At that point, there's no more aggression, and then Alex comes out and shoots Lorie's husband dead. Yes. And then Chandler police go, oh, that's fine. That appears to be, quote unquote, self-defense. No inquest, no autopsy, nobody to discuss. Anyway, ridiculous. But long story short, Lorie ends up reuniting with her lover, Chad Daybell, in Idaho. Fortunately for the Lorie Vallow and Chad Daybell, Chad's wife also dies in the night of mysterious circumstances because they haven't released the autopsy. Don't know why, but there is an investigation now by the AG's department in Idaho for possible murder charges against Lorie. So while Lorie is in Idaho, her two children end up missing. Her two children are JJ and Tylee. She is now a single free woman with no children. Chad Daybell, her lover, no longer has a wife, so they run off to Hawaii, get married on a beach wedding ceremony. I mean, it is photographed and publicized all over the place. I am just beside myself in awe at how two adult people could be having this open beachfront wedding when their ex-spouses are barely in the grave. One died under mysterious circumstances at night of quote-unquote natural causes, but there was no autopsy done until recently. Her husband, Lorie's husband, ends up shot by her brother. But while they're in Hawaii, the grandmother wants to know where the two children are. The two children are missing. So Lorie ends up in an Idaho jail because she refuses to state where her two missing children are. So we have two deaths and two missing children. And from the most recent interviews by Melanie, her best friend, Lorie's best friend, it also appears that poor Tylee and poor JJ, two children, also are dead because, according to Melanie, the friend of Lorie, Lorie stated they had been inhabited by zombies and so destined for death so they could recapture their souls in the next life. Yes, this is not a teenage romance vampire movie. This is real life in Idaho. This is a real life Mormon couple in Idaho. So we are going to be reviewing the interview done by a news station of Lorie Vallow, who is in prison right now or in jail right now, and her best friend, Melanie. This is the most interesting three-part interview that I want to review to you because it has so many nuggets of information. And what this demonstrates is that there is not just one Mormonism. There are so many versions of Mormonism that occurs at night away from the church houses, in which people like Chad Daybell and Lorie Daybell are talking about the second coming and Idaho being the last stand of the military invasion and zombies and all sorts of stuff. Who would have ever thought? But this is happening all around us. It's like you can walk in a room and suddenly everyone stops talking because everyone knows about the secret but you. That's how I feel. How does this crazy kind of belief system and goings on happen in plain sight? But it somehow does. The sleepy little town underneath it at night becomes a crazed, occult, satanic cesspool. And that's exactly what Idaho has become. By day, it just seems like a sleepy little old town. But by night, oh my gosh, we have black helicopters. We have military landing in droves. We have so many CIA handlers. Who knows what's going on? It's like the Keystone Cops on steroids. So returning to this three-part interview of Melanie, who is Lorie Daybell's best friend, we come to learn many things. Melanie releases in her interview that Chad Daybell is a clairvoyant prophet. He predicts an earthquake which occurred in Salt Lake. Of course, this was supposed to be a devastating earthquake that never, there was an earthquake, but it wasn't quite devastating except for the angel Moroni on the top of the temple. And a long story short, it's just the most bizarre scenario of death, murder, and kidnapping I have ever seen. And these are all Mormons. They all have bishops. They all go to church during the week. They all go to the temple. In fact, the temple is their favorite place to go to talk to spirits behind the veil. And I am sitting here wondering, as an ex-Mormon, just how many of my Relief Society presidents practice this type of crazy occult type of zombie prophet occult rituals on the weekends. You never know. I mean, I look at Melanie, who is Lorie's best friend. She looks like every one of my blonde, middle-aged Relief Society presidents I ever had while I was a practicing Mormon. Who knows what craziness happens when no one's watching? So in the next segment, we're going to get deep into the interviews of Melanie, Lorie Vallow's best friend, to find out and discover all these nuggets of occult activity happening right before our eyes.